Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode of Rippin' the Fence, we're going to be breaking down everything from the Clash at the Coliseum. Before we hop into the video, I just want to quickly remind you guys, hit that like button and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it if you guys did that. We just hit 300 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for all of that. Next goal is 400 and we'll just keep on going from there. So thank you guys so much for all the support. Matthew, my friend and co-host, is joining me on the show, and he's actually got a little bit of exciting news to share with you guys, so I'll go ahead and let him share that. But Matthew, how you doing before we go ahead and hop into this video? We got a lot to talk about from the Clash.
Yep, what a interesting day, I should say, of racing that we had. I guess the news. I wouldn't say it's exciting or anything, but I did finally score my first ever truck series win on iRacing, which was on at the LA Coliseum, which kind of doesn't make sense. I know they never run the LA Coliseum with trucks, but that's what they do on iRacing. But I somehow survived all the chaos and I won somehow. But the rip in the fence scheme, if in case anyone that was in that race, that was me. But yeah. Um, what an interesting day of racing we had. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, so actually, before we talk about the Clash, there's one kind of off-track thing I want to talk about and get both our opinions on real quick, and that is that the NASCAR Netflix series did drop earlier in the week last week. Both of us watched it. I'm personally going to try not to spoil too much of it for you. I'm just going to try to give my opinions on it. So there were 5 episodes in the season. The first one was Daytona, the last race of the regular season. The next video was the first 3 races of the playoffs. The third video was the next 3. The fourth video was the next 3. And the fifth video was about the championship race in Phoenix. Very high quality production, obviously, with Netflix coming in, and then they used a lot of the NASCAR media team as well. They used a lot of their footage, NASCAR Productions specifically. They used a lot of their footage as well in this production. I feel like they did a good job explaining the playoffs as well as they could have for the first time viewer that doesn't know much about NASCAR. I know the playoff format could be a bit confusing for fans on the outside about, winning and making it and winning it and making to the next round, stage points, playoff points, all that kind of stuff. But I do feel like they did a good enough job explaining how the playoffs work. They had a lot of good analysts in there as well. They even brought Marty Smith in, who's with ESPN. They brought him in. He did a really good job. As for drivers, it was mostly Denny Hamlin. He seemed to kind of be like the main character, quote unquote. But on his podcast and out in public several times, he said that when they approached him about giving them access to his life, he basically said, you could do whatever you want as long as I don't say no. You could do it, and that's what they did. So, not really surprised that Denny was the main character based on that and how much footage they got. He said that there was even a lot more footage that he was surprised it didn't make it. So they must have followed him a lot, gotten a lot of good content. But there were also drivers like Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell. I might be missing a couple, but those were a few drivers that were highlighted as well, not just in the production, but like at their house, at their hauler, all that kind of stuff. I like how during the races they had cameras on the family, to get their emotions throughout what was going on. They had a lot of Hamlin's family. They had Christopher Bell's wife, stuff like that. So I like how behind the scenes it was, and I thought it was a really good production. That's pretty much all I'll have to say about it. Hopefully a season 2 will come out soon, and hopefully they'll get some other drivers involved as well. I know the media asked Brad Keselowski about it, and he said that he wasn't really asked to be filmed or anything like that. And I know the crew, they only had 10 weeks to work with, or, well, 11, I guess, to work with. So as long as they spread the love out a little bit over the next few seasons and episodes, I'm completely fine with it. I understand that it was a time crunch and they only had so many drivers to pick from for the playoffs for this first season. So, overall, I thought it was a great debut season for the Netflix series. I'm excited for the next one whenever that comes out. But Matthew, go ahead and share some of your quick thoughts about what you thought about the first season of the Netflix series.
Well, I thought it was amazing to watch. I mean, then of course Denny Hamlin was the main star, and I think he did an amazing job as being like the main protagonist of this series. It seems like one person I wish we did see a lot more of was Ross Chastain. He was um I I wish it'd be cool to see him more in the next season. Yeah, this series did an amazing job explaining everything about the playoffs, explain what goes on in the shop, on track. Um, it also gave us a little behind the scenes of what their personal life is like as well. I mean, I feel like they did an amazing job balancing everything out from what they do at home to what they do in the shop, what they do on track. They did an amazing job balancing all that together. And I hope we see a second season. I'll be shocked if they don't. I feel like this will be something we'll see more of. But yeah, this was a great foundation, and I expect for future seasons they'll continue to build on that foundation to help make this series even better, better, better. So that's, I mean, it was amazing. It was fun to watch. Um, yeah, they did an amazing job. So thank you, NASCAR. Thank you, Netflix.
All right, let's go ahead and move into the Clash recap. So, the biggest piece of news that probably most people know by now is that the Clash was actually moved up. It was supposed to be Sunday night. NASCAR went ahead and decided to move it up to Saturday night because the weather in the area, LA area, just looked terrible for the next few days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, even possibly even Wednesday looked bad as far as rain. They were saying like life-threatening flooding coming to the area and stuff like that. So must be pretty bad out there. If anybody's out there being affected by it in any way, I hope you guys are okay. Praying for you guys. But NASCAR decided to move the race up one day to Saturday night, and NASCAR made it free for anybody that wanted to come out. Obviously, it is LA, and there's a bunch of traffic, and LA is a high entertainment destination for several other things as well. So just popping it up, oh, there's a NASCAR race tonight, it's going to be kind of hard to draw a bunch of people to it. But NASCAR did make it free for anybody that wanted to come out, which is definitely good. And they're trying their best to get in contact with fans who couldn't make it to reimburse them for their tickets and stuff like that. But I do think this is the best move that NASCAR could have made, and it seems like a lot of people agree as well. Drivers included, team owners included, pretty much anybody you ask, this is probably the best option that they had. Because if they were going to wait it out for Sunday night, it probably was going to be a wash, and then going into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you just never know how long it's going to be. And all these drivers, teams, crews, they have to come back to their shop and prepare for Daytona, which is, the kickoff race for the year for points and all that. So teams want to be able to prepare for that. So I definitely think NASCAR made the right decision moving it up. I do feel bad for the fans that could not make it, ones that maybe had flights or hotels booked that probably aren't going to get their money back, which is a pain in the butt. Trust me, I've had to deal with traveling woes before, having to be like, my plans changed last minute, da-da-da, well, there's nothing we can do, we can't give you your money back, stuff like that. So definitely feel bad for the fans who probably lost a lot of money over this race, and NASCAR as well, they probably lost a lot of money as well. But as for the race itself, they had to shorten the day a little bit. They only did practice, the 3 sessions of practice, and then the race. And the final of those 3 sessions for practice was going to be qualifying. And some big names that missed the Clash this year. Top of the list is Christopher Bell, Chris Buescher, Josh Berry, Daniel Suarez, Eric Jones. Those are a few names that missed the show. But as for the race itself, the Toyotas, they looked strong pretty much the entire night. Denny Hamlin led early in the race, and then Ty Gibbs, his teammate, took the lead over at lap 50. Towards the end of the first half, Ty Gibbs kind of got roughed up by some of the veterans, Joey Logano and Kyle Busch. And then once they hit the halfway mark, lap 75, they came down pit road, took a break, changed tires, went back out there, and Ty Gibbs once again got to the lead and checked out once again. He did approach lap traffic late in the race, which allowed Joey Logano to close back in, but there was a caution with 10 laps to go. Only green flag laps counted in this race, by the way. No caution flag laps counted. And then on the restart, with about 10 to go, Ty Gibbs was on the inside, Logano was on the outside. Ty Gibbs overdrove the first corner, roughed Logano up, moved Logano way out of the picture, and then here comes Denny Hamlin back to the front, passes both of them, gets to the lead, and then another caution came out on the white flag lap, actually. Ty Gibbs was falling back through the pack, got spun around by Kyle Larson, I believe, and that brought out another caution. So it was a green-white checker finish, and the lineup was Denny Hamlin on the inside, Ryan Blaney on the outside, Kyle Busch on the inside, Kyle Larson on the outside. And I actually thought Kyle Busch was in the catbird seat here because on the previous restart, when Denny Hamlin was battling it out, he was smoking the tires really bad, locking them up going into the corner. So I thought that was going to happen on the restart there. He was going to lock them up, slide right up into Blaney, and Kyle Busch was going to sweep right underneath both of them and take off, kind of like Denny Hamlin did to Ty Gibbs and Joey Logano. But actually, Denny Hamlin was able to get a great launch on the restart, not lock up the tires, keep it clean for 2 laps, and go ahead and win the race. The script just made sense for Denny Hamlin to win this race, in my opinion. You know, the Netflix star, I beat your favorite driver again. It just all made sense, in my opinion, for Denny Hamlin to win this race. And he ended up doing just that. The only results I'm going to go over are the top 3 because they got a medal. So Denny Hamlin got the win. Kyle Busch finished second. Top three finishes for Kyle Busch in the Clash, by the way. So great runs for Kyle Busch. Another second place finish there for him. And Ryan Blaney ends up finishing third. And like I said, I just feel like the script just came together perfectly for Denny Hamlin to win this race. But after the race, Ty Gibbs and Joey Logano were not happy with each other. Ty Gibbs seemed to be at his hauler, and Joey Logano came over and had some words for him. And this is left over from last year as well, because these two went back and forth about the second half of the season. And Joey Logano spun Ty Gibbs out at Martinsville in the fall, if you guys remember that. That had some stuff to do with it as well. And they both had their choice words for each other. I like Ty Gibbs. He said something like, I've been watching this my whole life, or something like that, where referring to Joey Logano, being rough with people and getting into several incidents. And then Joey Logano chirped back, he's like, oh yeah, we'll keep watching, or something like that. So that's going to be an interesting rivalry to see throughout the rest of this season. As for the race itself, the Clash, I thought this was arguably the best short track race with the next gen car. You could notice that they actually weren't shifting for once. I don't know if they were in second gear or third gear. I think it was third gear they were in. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it. But they weren't shifting, except for Chase Briscoe, who has been notorious for doing that. But they weren't shifting, so NASCAR must have changed something in the car enough for them to not do that. But I thought it was a solid race. It wasn't too junky of a race like last year. The second half of that race last year was absolutely atrocious. They couldn't make it 3 laps without wrecking. But this year they did a good job. There were less cars in the field too, so that probably had a factor with not as many cautions and it not looking messy. But I thought it was a solid race overall. But the main question, well, I'll talk about the Fox broadcast first, and then I'll go into this other part. Fox coverage, want to quickly touch on that. It was Kevin Harvick's first full season debut in the booth, and I thought he did a decent job. I thought Kevin Harvick did pretty good. And this is actually, I'm going to pretty much echo exactly what Eric Estep said on his video. My problem really isn't with the broadcasters. I thought they did pretty well tonight. It's just with the camera crew. Whoever was directing that camera crew tonight, or well, not tonight, last night, other night, just awful camera footage. Like, I feel like you could throw Matthew and I on one of those cameras and we could do a better job than what was going on there. Just, it was, the shots were zoomed in too much. They completely missed, who was it? Stenhouse. He got out of his car during the halfway mark, walked over to John Hunter Nemechek's car, and like opened his window net and like was talking to him, and they didn't get any of that. They didn't get the incident on the final lap between Tyler Reddick and Ross Chastain. Apparently, Ross Chastain pretty much like wrecked Tyler Reddick or put him in the wall after the race. They didn't get that. Just the camera crew is absolutely terrible for Fox. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they could prove that for the Daytona 500, because you cannot have a performance like that in the Daytona 500, the biggest race of the year that brings in the most audience. You cannot have a camera camera quality like that for the biggest race of the season. So hopefully they improve that. But on a brighter note, I guess, this is seeming to be the final race for the Clash at the LA Coliseum. So everybody's questioning, where would it go next year? There was a rumor that they could go get down to somewhere in Mexico next season to do it. I really don't know. I don't really have much of an opinion on where they should go, just because I don't think anybody really has any kind of idea of what NASCAR might have up their sleeve. But the main thing about the Clash and the date is this is now changed because the football season, NFL, is going longer into the year now. So that has an effect on the schedule for the Clash, because the Super Bowl is literally in between the Clash and the Daytona 500. So it's really hard to... Did I say the Clash is between the Super Bowl and the Daytona? No, the Super Bowl's in the middle of the Clash and the Daytona 500. I don't know if I said it the first time or not, but just to clarify. But yeah, Super Bowl is right in the middle, so you can't have the Clash the week before the Daytona 500 anymore, which is unfortunate. But my quick pick for where it should be was Atlanta. That's just because I feel like that's one of the best racetracks on the schedule right now. And with the way the track is wearing out a little bit, it's like a hybrid of a super speedway and a mile and a half, which are two of the best racetracks on the schedule right now. So it'll be fun for them to try Atlanta, but who knows what NASCAR has up their sleeve. But yeah, I've talked a lot about the Clash. So Matthew, go ahead and tell everybody some of the thoughts that you have after the race from LA.
Well, what a interesting day, I should say, of racing. Not race weekend, race day, because of course it got moved to Saturday instead of what was supposed to be today, because of some biblical rainstorm coming to Los Angeles. Of course, the weekend that NASCAR comes, it rains so hard in Los Angeles, which that's just NASCAR just has terrible luck when it comes to that. Same thing happened. It's like the Chicago Nightmare all over again. But they were able to get that whole race in, and I mean, kudos to NASCAR. I mean, they were in a tight box here. They still kept their promise of letting people come in free, um, and they were able to get that whole race in. And I mean, I gotta give major props to them, because they were they were pretty much in a big loss here financially, and TV rating and audience, and the actual attendance. But I mean, yeah. Um, Man, I'm already losing my thought. There's always so much stuff going on. Sorry, but yeah. Props to NASCAR. With the tight box they're in, they were able to make this work. I know the TV rating and attendance, they're not going to look good, but unfortunately, this big old rainstorm happens out of nowhere. But congratulations to Denny Hamlin, first of all. He was the pole sitter. He had one of the best cars of the in the Clash, but in my opinion, I think Ty Gibbs had the best car. I mean, that car was pulling away from the whole field whenever there was a long run going on. And it's unfortunate that he didn't win, but I mean, It came down to experience, and Ty Gibbs just doesn't have the experience like a guy like Denny Hamlin has, or Kyle Busch has, or Joey Logano has. He just did not time the restart that he was in the lead perfect, and he lost the lead and the race because of that. But Denny Hamlin played a smart race, and he was able to win and delivered the most famous quote that he's had recently. I beat your favorite driver again. But but yeah, this was Hamlin's fourth Clash win, and he's probably gonna be the last driver to win in the LA Coliseum, which I'll get into in a little bit. Ryan Blaney, who finished third, he had an impressive drive. He literally did not qualify in on time. He had the champion provisional, so he started dead last and battled his way all the way up to third. So amazing run for Ryan Blaney. Another guy I want to give a shout out to is Justin Haley, who I know he got knocked out of the race due to an engine problem, but he brought a Rick Ware racing car in the Clash, which that is absolutely impressive. I saw the 51 car in the top five in qualifying practice. I'm like, huh? Is this right? I mean, Justin Haley, ever since we've done the LA Clash, he has been very good. He was great in calling it both years, and he was able to bring that with Rick Ware Racing. So I just got to give a little shout out to him as well. There were, I mean, there were brakes that were overheated, then there were drivers that were overheated. Of course, we saw in the halftime with literally Ricky Stenhouse getting out of his car, he literally get into Nemechek's face there in his car, um, which I was surprised because I thought you weren't supposed to get out of your car during the halftime break. I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna be like a fine or not. Probably not, but yeah, that one caught me off guard. We saw McDowell and Stenhouse get into it during the caution. We also saw Ryan, not Ryan, I mean Ross Chastain and Tyler Reddick going out on the last lap. And then after the race, Joe Logano and Ty Gibbs get into it after the race. After I guess Ty Gibbs, I guess moves Logano out of the way, and I mean, Logano's kind of being a little bit hypocritical right here because he's literally done the same thing like that in the past. But what was that quote, hey Jimmy? What was that quote Hammond said that one time? It's short track racing. I mean, that's what Tigers was doing, short track racing. I mean, but yeah. I mean, there was a lot of action going on. It wasn't a huge wreck fest like last year. This was definitely one. I don't know if it's still better than 2022 Clash, but this is definitely up there as the best version we've had of the LA Coliseum. Um, just an amazing race. The best next gen race was on a short track for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, what a race though! What an amazing race! Despite all the bad circumstances that happened with the rainstorm and the race being moved up a day, but yeah, what a race! And oh, and before I finish this out, Fox Sports. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be a long first half of the season. If we have to deal with this crap again, the terrible cameras. I mean, the terrible camera, I guess, selections that they have. They literally have the camera zoomed in on the car's nose, and you can't see anything that's going on around it. They are. You hear Mike Joy literally saying, "Oh, look at these two having contact with each other." Meanwhile, they're pointing the camera at the leader that's like 2 seconds ahead of the second place car. They literally were talking about how Ross Chastain and Tyler Reddick were wrecking each other after the race. No cameras shown on that. The Stenhouse and Nemechek argument going on at halftime. No camera on that, which is even more baffling considering there was no concert because Machine Gun Kelly canceled or something like that. There was nothing going on. How you missed that? But this is gonna be a long half first half of the season. This is how it's going to be. But they did one thing interesting, which I will give credit to. You know how NBC they have the cutaway car as a 3D model, and Fox they had their cutaway car, which was literally a freaking pencil drawing, which is kind of embarrassing compared to NBC's. But they did something creative. They actually had the actual car in the shop, and they were literally pointing to the buttons on the help. I think it was about helping cool the brakes. I think, which hey, that's actually creative. I like it. Use an actual race car to show how this certain part works. So that's the only thing I'll give credit to. The rest, it sucked. So yeah, amazing race, terrible camera selections. Yeah,
And where do you think the Clash goes next year?
in my opinion, it doesn't really matter to me. In my opinion, I don't think it's going to Atlanta. I highly doubt NASCAR's going to let SMI get the Clash date because that's always been part of NASCAR slash ISC's date is the Clash. So I doubt they're just going to give that away to SMI. Um, I definitely don't think it should go back to Daytona. Look, I understand the Clash at Daytona's always been the thing it was for a long time, but we saw that race. It just got boring, stale, and it turned into an absolute crash fest for the last couple years. And also didn't help that barely anyone showed up for it. So yeah, I don't think you should go to Daytona. I mean, I do like the idea about going to a different country like Canada. Well, maybe not Canada, like February, no, but like Mexico City, like it's rumored. I don't mind that at all. So I'm all for where they go to. I think it should remain the class should remain as an experiment date, like experimenting new markets. I think that's how they should go with this.
All right, so we are going to end this episode by rating the race, and we also have a new segment that we're going to add on as well. We'll combine them together. So we're going to do rating the race, and we're going to do our paint scheme of the race. We're going to add that. So for me, I'm going to rate this race a 7.5 out of 10. I don't want to set the bar too high for the whole season, but this was a solid race in my opinion. And then favorite paint scheme of the race. Matthew might be surprised by this one, but I'm actually going to go with Bubba Wallace's Columbia car. The white and blue with the gold number just look really good. That's going to be my paint scheme of the race. Matthew, what are you going to rate the race, and what's your favorite paint scheme from the race?
All right, so what I'm gonna rate this race, I'm gonna rate it a 8 out of 10. I thought this was an amazing race. Unfortunately, the rain circumstances kind of ruined the momentum for them, but race wise, amazing. Wasn't a huge crash fest, and I gotta give it 8 out of 10. And as for my favorite paint scheme for this race, are you counting the cars that didn't make it to the Clash, or just the ones that made it to the Clash?
Anybody that was there.
Okay, good to know. Um, no, I'm not choosing the Morgan and Morgan car. I'm not choosing that. No, I'm sorry. That just makes me cringe. I'm sorry. They absolutely ruined it with the hood. But my favorite paint scheme, I gotta go with Tyler Reddick's Jordan car. Woo, man, that paint scheme looks so awesome on the track, and man, just that's hot. That's hot. Just like his shoes. So I gotta give Tyler Reddick's Jordan cars my scheme of the race.
Yeah, that was in my top three between that one and the Bubble Walls car and one other one. But great paint schemes for 2311. They're always bringing that heat to the track. That is going to go ahead and finish this episode. I know we're running a little bit long, and I know Matthew and I wanted to chime in on one more thing that isn't NASCAR related. It's a different motorsport related, but we can save that for our next video. We'll
I
probably
do.
have one that comes out.
Let me
Yeah, go ahead.
let me chime in one more thing real quick, just real quick. They also had one other series at the LA Coliseum, the NASCAR Mexico series, which came on right after. And this was my first time ever watching a NASCAR International Series race. And I thought it was just so cool to watch because I don't think there's a channel that we have that has any other NASCAR International Series that can watch, like the Mexico Series, the Penty Series, the Euro Series, etc. I think it was so cool that these drivers are getting the American screen time on TV, and this might help them with their careers getting into NASCAR in the main series. And of course, Suarez won it, which I felt like that was very appropriate. Um, but it was so cool watching an international series race for the first time, and hopefully we see more collaboration from the other international series, like Cup Series, Pinty Series weekend, or Euro Series, you name it. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that was cool to watch the NASCAR Mexico Series race. Hopefully, gave those drivers a good opportunity to showcase their talent. But yeah, that is going to wrap it up for this video. Sorry it's a little bit long, but there was a lot of good stuff to talk about from the Clash. We wanted to give you guys all of our opinion on it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. We'll probably come out with a video before Daytona talking about the pole, the duels, the race, all that kind of stuff sometime later in the week or next week. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you hit that little notification bell to let you guys know next time we upload. But until next time, we'll see you guys in our next video.